Hello everyone, my name is Sakshi Rastogi. I am pursuing BTech in CSE from Bennett University. Today, I will be discussing a topic of operating system, that is process scheduling and algorithms. In this video session, I will be focusing on the topics that are listed over here so you can have a look at it. Now, the first question arises that what is process scheduling? Process scheduling is a task performed by the operating system. Suppose there are three processes in the ready state. What is a ready state? A ready state is a state in which all those processes are kept which are ready for their execution. Now, if I take one process from the ready state and allocate CPU to it, then after that, the execution of the process will start. Now, after some time, if the process receives an input-output request, then the process will go to the waiting state, and at that time the CPU will become idle. So, to avoid the idleness of the CPU, we will use process scheduling and will pick one more process from the ready state having the highest priority. With the help of process scheduling, we will keep the CPU as busy as possible. Now, we will discuss the objectives of the process scheduling. The aim of the process scheduling is to make the system efficient, fast and fair. So, with the help of process scheduling, we can keep our CPU as busy as possible. It also maximizes the throughput. What is throughput? Throughput is the number of processes executed per unit time. It also minimizes the turnaround time. Turnaround time is the time taken by the process to complete its execution. It also minimizes the waiting time. Waiting time is the time for which the process is there in the ready queue. Now, we will discuss what is the need of process scheduling. In uniprogramming system, we all know that we can execute only one process at a time. So, if we allocate CPU to a process and after some time of its execution, the process receives an input-output request, then the process will go to the waiting state and after that the CPU will become idle. So, this will make the system less efficient. On the other hand, if we use multi-programming system where we can execute multiple processes at the same time with the help of process scheduling, we can make our system more efficient. With the help of process scheduling, if we allocate CPU to one process, we can allocate CPU to one process while other process is in waiting state. Now, we will discuss about the process scheduling queues. Process scheduling queues help us to maintain distinct queues for each and every process state. There are three types of process scheduling queues. First one is job queue. Whenever a process enters into the system, the process is put into the job queue. Then, after that, these processes will move on to the ready queue. So, ready queue is a queue which contains all those processes that are ready for their execution. Now, the third queue is the device queue. Device queue contains all those processes which are blocked due to the unavailability of the input-output devices. Now, we will discuss about process scheduler. Process scheduler is a software that helps us to handle process scheduling. There are three types of process scheduler. The first one is short-term scheduler, which is also known as CPU scheduler. The second one is medium-term scheduler, and the third one is long-term scheduler, which is also known as job scheduler. Now, we will be discussing about the short-term scheduler. So, short-term scheduler is also known as CPU scheduler, which basically selects processes from the ready queue which are to be executed next. So, the processes that are present in the ready queue, the short-term scheduler will going to select one of these processes and will send it to the running state for its execution. In comparison to long-term scheduler and middle-term scheduler, the speed of short-term scheduler is very fast. Why so? The reason is that when a process is executing and if it receives an input-output request and after the process goes to the waiting state, the CPU will become idle. So, to avoid the idleness of the CPU, the short-term scheduler will going to take one process from the ready state having the higher priority and will hand it over to the CPU for the execution in a very quick time so that the CPU does not get idle. Now we will discuss about the long-term scheduler. Long-term scheduler is also known as job scheduler. So its function is to bring the processes which are present in the system to the ready queue. So the processes which have just arrived, or we can say the processes which are present in the new state, are brought into the ready queue by the long-term scheduler. Now we will be discussing about the middle-term scheduler. Middle-term scheduler is also known as process swapping scheduler. So there are 4 types of states here: ready state, suspend ready, suspend wait, wait and block. So whichever process is present in the ready state are present in the main memory. The processes which are in the waiting state or in the blocked state due to the unavailability of the input-output devices are also present in the main memory. And both these suspended states, they corresponds to the secondary memory such as hard disk. Now the processes jumps from the ready state to the suspended state. So what is the need of jumping? Now suppose that this block is a main memory and it is full of processes of 2 types: the processes which are in the ready state as well as the processes which are in the waiting state or the block state. So suppose if a process having higher priority wants to enter into the main memory, that is, it has arrived in the ready state. Now it wants to go to the main memory, but since the main memory is full of the processes that are present in the ready state or in the waiting state, so one of the process having the lowest priority will be moved from the main memory. Now before moving it from the main memory, we will check whether the process is present in the ready state or it is present in the waiting state or the blocked state. So depending upon these 2 things, so if the process that is coming out of the main memory was present in the ready state, then it will move to the suspend state, that is the secondary memory. And if the process was present in the waiting state or the block state, then it will move to the suspended wait state. And when the execution of the process having the higher priority is done, we will bring the process that was sent to the suspended state back to the ready state or the block state. So this is how the swapping takes place. Now we will be discussing about preemptive scheduling and non-preemptive scheduling. In preemptive scheduling, CPU is allocated to a process only for a limited time. Suppose a process is getting executed. Now, if a process with higher priority enters into the ready queue, then the execution of the current process will get terminated and the process having higher priority will be executed first. So, in preemptive scheduling, processes can be interrupted in between. In non-preemptive scheduling, once the CPU is allocated to a process, the process holds the CPU until the execution of the process gets completed or the process goes to a waiting state. So, In non-preemptive scheduling, the processes are not interrupted in between. So, before moving to the questions, let us discuss some of the few terms which are used. The first one is arrival time. What is arrival time? Arrival time is the time at which the process arrives in the ready queue. The next term is completion time. Completion time is the time at which the process completes its execution. Burst time. Burst time is the time required by a process for CPU execution. Turnaround time. Turnaround time is basically the difference between the completion time and the arrival time. Waiting time. Waiting time is the difference between the turnaround time and the burst time. Here is the list of scheduling algorithms. In the upcoming video, we will be discussing first come first serve, which is based on non-preemptive scheduling. So, in this example, we are taking 4 processes along with their arrival time and burst time. Now, we will create a Gantt chart. What is first come first serve? It says that whichever process is arriving first in the system, it will be executed first. So we can see that process P1 is arriving at time t equals to 0. So P1 will be executed first. Its execution time is 2. So while P1 was executing, at time t1, P3 arrives, and at time t equals to 2, P2 arrives. So after the completion of the execution of process P1, P3 will get executed because after P1, P3 has arrived first. So the execution time for P3 is 2. So while P3 was executing, the process P4 arrives at time t equals to 3. Now, after the execution of the process P3 has been completed, the process P2 will get executed because it has arrived earlier in comparison to P4. The execution time for P2 is 4. So, the completion time for P2 will be 4 plus 4, that will be equal to 8. Now, after P2, P4 will get executed and its execution time is 1. So, its completion time will be 8 plus 1, which is equal to 9. Now we will be calculating the turnaround time and the waiting time for each process. The formula for turnaround time is completion time minus the arrival time. So the turnaround time for P1 will be its completion time. Since P1 has completed its execution at time t equals to 2, so its completion time will be 2 and its arrival time is 0. 2 minus 0 will be equal to 2. Now the completion time of process P2 is 8. So we will write 8 over here and its arrival time is 2. So 8 minus 2 will be equal to 6. Now the turnaround time for process P3 will be its completion time, which is 4, minus its arrival time. P3 has arrived at time t equals to 1. So 4 minus 1 will be equal to 3. Now we will calculate the turnaround time for process P4. Its completion time is 9 and the process P4 has arrived at time t equals to 3. So 9 minus 3 equals to 6. Now we will be calculating the waiting time for all these processes. Waiting time formula is turnaround time minus burst time. So the turnaround time for process P1 is 2. Then 2 minus the burst time, which is 2, is equal to 0. So the process P1 has not waited in the ready queue for its execution. The time at which it arrives in the ready queue, it was sent for the execution. Now we will be calculating the waiting time of P2. The turnaround time for P2 is 6. 6 minus the burst time of P2, which is 4. 6 minus 4 equals to 2. Now we will calculate the waiting time of P3. The turnaround time for P3 is 3 and its burst time is 2. So the waiting time of P3 is 1. That means the process P3 has to wait for 1 second after its arrival for its execution. Now we will be calculating the waiting time of the process P4, which will be equal to the turnaround time of P4, which is 6, minus its burst time, which is equal to 1. So 6 minus 1 equals to 5. That means the process P4 has to wait for 5 seconds after its arrival for its execution. Thank you everyone. I hope you liked the video.